Chief Executive Officer of SA Tourism, Mr. Mavuso Msimang. Dada, earlier on you told us about the huge contribution of Dr. Nelson Mandela within this sector. We spoke about private-public partnerships. We spoke about his need for conservation above profit and how he really transformed the frontier, the peace parks. We went into detail, but now let's talk about how we pass it on to the next generation. Let's talk about youth in conservation.
So interesting that you should ask about youth, because as in all other instances, Mr. Mandela had a lot of time for young people. When he opened the World Parks Congress of all parks in the world, which met in Durban in 2003, he remarked that he was surrounded by grey heads and so on, and he said he was concerned that if no youth were involved in conservation, then our future would be troubled. And he was really reassured when he realized that there were a number of programs that are coming up. So he thought very much of youth and their activities in all spheres of life in South Africa and in the world. So I think it's absolutely right. There are so many things that need to be done in conservation. First of all, we must understand what a beautiful country we have, ranking among the most beautiful in the world, absolutely, with all the things that you talk about. If we recognize that we have such a beautiful country, perhaps we'll start realizing that it's important to preserve it as a society. When people talk about pollution, littering, if we were conscious of the fact that we are in a beautiful space, we would take more care in looking after it. But also it is a huge generator of jobs. The potential has really not been fully exploited. It's a huge generator of businesses out there. Ecotourism is about going to live with nature. We don't always have to be in these five-star things. You want to be comfortable out there next to the animals and so on. But I sometimes think we've lost it, when people are poaching our rhino at the level that they are doing. I remember somebody calling on one of the radio stations and say, well, why bother about rhinos? This is a white... My God, the way the rhino features in our culture, in our folklore, in everything, this is our animal, this is our heritage, this is something that we seem to be losing. So it is important that going forward, we really take stock of the wonderful asset that we have in the nature, in what nature has provided us.
Dr. Msimang, we'll have to leave it there, but that I think is one way that we can contribute towards the legacy of Dr. Madiba. Just looking at the images there from Pretoria, various park and ride